Welcome to Men's Net. We're glad you're with us. My name is Mel Feit. I'll be hosting today's show. Tony Nazaro is our executive producer. Okay. One of the observations that men typically have about women is that women often seem to be attracted to men who are unavailable to them. You know, it's the man who might not be attracted to her, or it's the man who treats her with indifference or disrespect or abuse, or it's the man who's married or in prison. It does seem that women will work hard to become attractive to these men, but once she knows that, once she knows that he desires her sexually, she's had him. She has what she most wants from him. I think that men are attracted to women and to women's bodies and to female sexuality, but that's not the same thing as being attracted to your own attractiveness. Desiring a partner is different from wanting to be desired by a partner. The impetus for today's show is an article which appeared recently in the New York Times Magazine entitled, "What Do Women Want?" And the consensus of opinion among sex researchers is that women want to be desired. And I want to quote from one researcher in particular. Dr. Marta Miana, a female researcher, had this to say about women's sexuality, quote, "Women's desire is not relational, it's narcissistic. It is dominated by the yearnings of self-love, by the wish to be the object of erotic admiration and sexual need. In comparison with men, women's erotic fantasies center less on giving pleasure and more on getting it. When it comes to desire, women may be far less relational than men." Now, what's so interesting about this quote is that it is completely at odds with the conventional wisdom. I mean, when it comes to sex, everyone knows that women are more invested in relationship and in communication and in emotional intimacy. Everyone knows that for men it's easier to separate sex from relationship. Might not be true. I think we do that a lot when it comes to sex and gender. I think we often create a mythology that covers up an unpleasant reality that neither men nor women want to face, and that's what this show is going to be about. We're going to look at the cultural sexual mythology, compare it to the reality, and we are going to try to understand exactly what drives female desire and male desire. Should be a fascinating discussion and debate. We have a couple of women on our panel who might not agree with my introduction, so let's get to it. Joining us to have this discussion is a frequent contributor to Men's Net, one of our favorites around here. I always look forward to her participation on the show because she has such interesting things to say. Ms. Paula Young, welcome back.
How do you do, Mel? Thank you so much for having me back. And once again, I'm going to say that it's gibberish of the nth degree, because women, by virtue of the fact that we are the vessels of life, need to be desirable.
Wait until we get to the other
panel.
panel. Hold
because you're full of it.
Hold on.
All right.
Okay, that was going to be my line to you. Also on the panel with us is Dave Bihar. Dave is a therapist, and I think it's fair to say that he is one of the few therapists in the United States with a special area of expertise on men's issues and men's concerns. So it's about time we've had you on Men's Net. Thank you for being here. Welcome.
Thank you.
And also joining us is Dr. Shannon Bertha. Shannon is a sexuality counselor. She has a master's degree and a doctorate degree in human sexuality. She teaches at Kean University at Middlesex County College in New Jersey, and she is on the staff of the Medical Center for Female Sexuality here in New York. You are exactly the right person for us to have on this panel, so I thank you for being here.
Thank you for
and
having
welcome
me.
to the show. All right, let's start with Shannon. The implication of the New York Times article, at least for me, and it's a disturbing implication, is that women are not inherently heterosexual, at least not the way men are. And I want to ask you if you think that's a fair inference for me to make and whether you agree with it. Do you think women are not inherently heterosexual?
I think it really depends on which women you're looking at or what person. I think a lot of this is very individualistic. I think when you're looking at sexual orientation, you have to consider a few different things. Certainly desire, emotional connection between another person, the actual orientation that you go by, all of those things can vary. I mean, you have some women, and I think that's kind of what the article is saying, where they were having sexual arousal to seeing these various behaviors that were being done, not just by people, but also by animals. And I think that having desire towards, seeing these images or seeing two women together are very, very different than saying that you're homosexual as a result of that.
But the article did say that the stronger the sex drive was for a woman, the more likely she would be attracted to both sexes. And there was scientific research that shows that women seem to be. Men say they're attracted to women, and the science says that they are, but but women say they're attracted to men, and yet it seems that they may look at men's faces, but women look at women's bodies. So the question is, how do you account for that kind of research?
Oh, I think that men also have sexual desire for men as well, but I think that that's one of the things that's not talked about as much. I think the statistic was if you actually define sexual orientation by having sexual desire, 1/3 of all men would be gay. You know, that doesn't mean that they actually are gay or they go by for that orientation. That just means that they do find it desirable to look at, you know, other men.
What do you think of the introduction I read, that women's desire is narcissistic? I mean, what was your reaction to that quote?
I was not a fan of that quote. I mean, because
do you think it's true?
Do I think it's true? I think for some women, sure. For some women, I think it's true, and I think that, you know, the men that they end up or that target them are also looking for that type of woman, are looking for, you know, someone that I wouldn't use the word necessarily needy,
Well,
but
wanting to be desired is an inherently narcissistic thing, or not?
I don't know. I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know if I would say it's inherently narcissistic.
Let me ask you this, because this is an inherently mysterious thing, sexuality, difficult to put into words, but you're here to put it into words. Can you tell us, based on your professional experience, exactly what it is that drives female sexual desire and male desire, and how the two may be similar or different?
I think they're more similar than we actually think that they are. I think they're driven by two things. One would be certainly the hormonal component, which is what a lot of the male sexuality is usually brought up. In fact, that article is something that they talk about men's desire, men's wanting, and they say that there's an overabundance of that in men's body, which would be the testosterone. So I think that the male hormones that women also make are key components when you're talking about desire. But I think on the other end of that, the relationship is also a really important part of that. That, you know, sometimes for some of the women that I end up seeing at the medical center, desire starts outside of the bedroom. I mean, we have some women who will say that, you know, their husbands will come home from work and say, honey, can I help you with the laundry? And right there, that seems to be foreplay for women. Not all women, of course, but for some of the women, that right there, their husband's showing that they want to help them out in ways that do not relate to sex, kind of boost that sex drive up for them.
Now, so if I just interject, you're very strong about this narcissistic women. I believe it's our society that has made women the symbol of narcissism. Playboy magazine has no shortage of sales, and they basically show women, naked women, as objects of desire. So women have learned in our current society.
Desiring someone else is different from wanting to be desired.
But you're saying
and men desire women, women desire men to desire them. Desiring yourself is putting yourself on a pedestal. It's inherently narcissistic.
That's only one quote in that article.
Yeah, but this is what the scientific studies show, that women want to be desired.
Women want to be loved for entire people as men do, and men also do not want to be thought of as sexual objects, because men are basically like immediately, during sex, a woman just shows up, a man does a lot of the work. So if a woman is going to say, just, you know, do that, and that's not what happens, and you know it.
And if what a woman wants is to be desired, and if a man's job is to make her feel desired, that isn't a lot of work, Paula. That's the point.
And it isn't work for me to make you feel desirable so that you'll get an erection and we'll have sex?
Paula, there have been times when I've actually had the erection and I've looked around and said, "Where's Paula Young?" And you were not there to take advantage of it.
Globally, not specifically.
Okay, I want to get to Dave. I just want to ask Shannon one more question, then we get to Dave. You mentioned about hormonal influence. Does testosterone drive desire for both men and women?
Absolutely.
Okay, so if men have a lot more testosterone than women, does it then follow that men's sex drive is naturally stronger, or is there some other mechanism at work?
I would think that there's definitely two mechanisms at work. I mean, take a, let's say, postmenopausal woman whose hormones are, when you're talking about testosterone, are very, very low, but she has a great deal of desire that she wants to have sex. Maybe it's because, you know, her kids have now moved out of the home, she has more time to have sex with her husband, she knows she can't get pregnant. All of those are going to boost your sex drive, even if the hormones aren't necessarily there.
In addition, women have sex drive based on their menstrual cycle, because you're much more aroused when you're more fertile, and that is just components of becoming pregnant so that we can continue.
Okay, let's get Dave in this. I want to ask you the same question I asked Shannon. Can you describe exactly what, in your experience, drives female desire and male desire, and how the two may be similar or different?
Yeah, there's a number of variables, I think, that influence sexual desire in both men and women. I think hormones is a big one. Men who have a greatly decreased level of testosterone tend to have a great